Hi, today we're going to learn about mountains. We talked at the beginning of the year about volcanoes, which we can have volcanic mountains. So, a volcanoes can form mountains. Mountains are actually formed in many ways, but we're going to really just focus on mountains today. So, what is a mountain? Well, let's look at a picture here. Oh, do. This is just a generic picture that I have colored. Here's a mountain. And what is a mountain? It is an elevated piece of land taller than a hill. It's a landform. We can have many types of mountains. Generally, mountains are higher than 600 meters. They can have steep sloping sides, rounded ridges, and peaks. Mountains are found on every continent in the world, and they are also found in the oceans. In fact, over 75% of the world's countries have mountains in them. So there's a video in the Padlet that you'll get a chance to explore that talks a little bit more about how mountains are formed. But if you remember all the way back to the beginning of the year when we talked about the layers of the earth, and maybe I should have pulled that up. Oop, let's find the layers of our earth Padlet. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. So many things to share. Where's my video? There we are. Okay. So we have our layers of the earth, right? We have the inner earth, and the very center is the inner core, then the outer core, the mantle, and the crust. The crust is the surface of the earth. So the earth is made up of what's called tectonic plates, and those plates are the crust and the top layer of the mantle, what we call the lithosphere. So those, I'll just go ahead and I found some, yeah. So that lithosphere, the crust and part of the mantle, forms tectonic plates. And somewhere I found, oh gosh, here we are. And so those plates, we know that the earth moves, right? Way back in the beginning, we had Pangea and Gondwana land, and those continents were together, and then they moved apart. And so the earth is always moving and fluctuating. These tectonic plates are always moving. And here's a picture of some of those plates here we can see. And they move. When they move and they kind of grind up next to each other, that's when like we can have an earthquake. And if they like crash into each other, then part of that can go like boop, up and form up above the crust, above the surface of the earth, and that's how a mountain can be formed. And it just takes time. It just takes this time of the earth, these plates moving and pushing into each other and just growing up over time. And I think if I remember correctly, it's a mountain can grow something like a centimeter a year. So that's going to take a lot of time because mountains are very, very, very tall. We have mountains all over the world. So a mountain range is where there are many mountains together. And we have two mountain ranges in the USA. I guess I could have pulled up. Mountain ranges in USA. We have the Rockies Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. And let's see our images here. Find a map so you can see where these mountain ranges are. All right, so we see here the Rocky Mountains. They go through the states of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and a little bit in New Mexico here, and it even goes up into Canada. So those are the Rocky Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains are more on the northeast and goes even all the way down here to the south. And we can see it goes through many states. I won't name all of those, but you know, all the way up from Maine down here to Alabama. And then we have the Sierra Nevada Mountains, which are here in California. So those are the mountains in the USA. Like I said, there are mountains on every continent, 75% of countries, 3/4. So most of the countries in the world have mountains in them. And the tallest mountains in the world are actually in the ocean. Pretty amazing stuff. So let's talk about the parts of a mountain. I better stop sharing and reshare in case you can't see it. So we already talked about what a mountain is. And let's talk about these parts of a mountain. There we go. Okay, so first part of the mountain is the base. I'm not drawing directly how this, but our base, that is where the mountain starts to, the beginning of the mountain essentially, where the mountain begins to elevate from the Earth's surface. So that's a base, the base. We have the side of a mountain or the slope. So the side of the mountain we call the slope. Some mountains have crests, or these little ridges. You can see here, kind of like makes a line here. Crest of the mountain. Now, oh, and something else I wanted to point out. In this picture here, we can see, so this is a mountain range. It's not just one mountain. So we see, you know, there's a mountain here. This one over here is a mountain. Then this back here is a mountain. There's another mountain over here. So it's kind of like you keep looking beyond, there's all these mountains. So a mountain can have many peaks, and that's where the land makes a point. So if we're looking at this mountain right here, we see, of course, the very top, this peak. Looks like here's a peak, here's a peak. It's where many peaks. Comes to a point. So there can be many peaks. However, the summit is the very, very top, the top of a mountain. So whenever you hear somebody say that they climbed to the summit, that is the highest peak, the very highest point of the mountain. So that is the summit. And those are our parts of a mountain. You have a Padlet. Where it has these pictures that I just showed with you and the definition. So that crest, a row of peaks connected by a ridge, the pointed top of a mountain, the summit is the highest point or highest peak. You can hear me reading it. Like I said, here's some videos on, hopefully you can see this. I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare because I remember sometimes you can't see it. So here's some videos that you can watch. Here's one just about plate tectonics, which we're talking about how those, that lithosphere, the crust and the mantle, when they're moving against each other and forming that mountain. There's some videos on different mountains. There's a virtual field trip, Mount Everest, highest mountain in the world, or land mountain, I should say. And then you'll have some work options. I forgot I haven't added that yet. So make sure you choose one of these works to do, which can include, you know, we always have the option to make a book where you can write down these definitions and show what these different parts of the mountain are. So you can make a book on the parts of a mountain. You will be able to do some research. You can map on a world map some different important mountains around the world. That can be a work option. You can research a specific mountain and find out different facts about it, like Mount Everest. Where is it? How high is it? Mount Everest is one that many people try to climb. So what are some things that you can find out about this mountain? And yeah, so I hope you enjoy your exploration of mountains, this very important landform. And next week, we will be looking at rivers. And there's a relationship between mountains and rivers because all major rivers in the world are actually born from mountains, from the rainfall and the snow melt from mountains that flow down the mountain and form the river. And anything else important? I have all these things in my head that I'm like, I need to make sure to tell you about with mountains. I think that's it. There's so much more, but hopefully you'll get out there and learn about some mountains. And I will see you next time.